or health if you were Irish. So St. Patrick's Day is coming up. So I thought I'd talk a little bit about Guinness. Personally, I'm not a Guinness fan, but I'll get to that later. So, actually, I'll get to that now. So, beer is an acquired taste. Let's be honest. Um, None of us, the first beer we had, we thought, this is the best stuff ever. But adults drink beer, and so we wanted to look cool and whatever. So we'd screw up our face and we'd get the taste of it. And apparently, we'd learn to like it. Now, I say this because Guinness didn't really become popular until like the early 1990s. It existed in America, it just wasn't overly popular. Um, how's the best way to look at this? I'm going to go into a little bit of the history of that later, but let's just say I didn't see it advertised anywhere. I didn't see it in stores anywhere. I wasn't old enough to buy beer, so I wasn't looking for it in stores, I'll admit. But there weren't commercials for Guinness. There weren't magazine ads for Guinness. It was just wasn't overly popular. You didn't see people drinking it in restaurants or wherever until, like I said, around the 1990s we started importing it, and it became popular. And Guinness is a stout beer, and by stout we mean it's got a stronger flavor than others. The best I could ever compare it was like comparing cheese to smoked cheese, or like meats to smoked meats. Guinness sort of had a smoky taste to it, in my opinion, and it's a lot stronger than normal beer because it's. We'll get into that a little later too. And so people, not only do I want to get drunk, I want to. This is Irish beer. Those Irish, they know how to get drunk. They know how to drink. So this is going to be really good. And they drink it, and even if they're used to normal American beer at this point, this is completely different than anything they're used to. So they'll take a drink and they'll get this really screwed up expression on their face. But we want to look cool, so this is good Irish beer. And so, as a general rule, I saw this happening. I tried my first Guinness when I was old enough to drink, and I didn't like it. And so, time went on, I'd see other people doing this, talking, because this is Irish beer, and I want to be a beer drinker, so I've got to like the Irish beer. And it's obvious from the expression on their face when they first taste it, they don't like it. So we have beers an acquired taste, and then stout beers, which Guinness is a stout beer, is also an acquired taste. Now, I have been to Ireland a few times. Never ordered a Guinness while in Ireland, but I want to sample some other beers. And I never quite got to the asking the bartender, is this a stout? Is this a lager? What kind of beer is this? And so I'd get a beer and they'd serve me a stout and I'd taste it, and same taste, but I paid for it, so I'm going to finish it. So over time, I sort of acquired a taste for stout beers. Still not my favorite, but I can drink them without screwing my face up when I drink them because, I've gotten accustomed. Like I said, it's an acquired taste. So over time, not my favorite, but I can taste it without screwing my face up and getting, this is good Irish beer. No, it's something, again, I'll order by accident more than anything else. And that's why, but that said, here in America, we do have other brands of stout beers, but I still can't bring myself to ordering a Guinness just because I've seen all the posers basically. I want to look cool, so I got to drink this beer, and even though it's obvious that I don't like the taste of it, I've got to pretend like it's good. So I'm not saying that of all Guinness drinkers, but I've seen it enough because, again, I can remember when Guinness became popular here in America, at least locally. Like I said, bigger cities, maybe people were drinking it on a regular basis. But here locally, never saw it sold, never saw it advertised. And when it finally did become advertised, when people started buying it locally, I could see them, screwing up their face, and they didn't really like the taste of it, but they wouldn't admit it. So anyway, so like I said, Guinness is a stout. Um, beer. Beer is broken into two categories: lager and ale. So lagers are basically the fermentation takes place at the bottom of the vat. Let me double check my notes here. I think cooler temperatures at the bottom of the vat, and ales fermentation takes place at the top of the vat at warmer temperatures. That's really the big difference between them. If you drink a lot of beer, maybe you can tell a difference between the tastes, but that's it. That said, stout. I've seen a lot of web pages as I was looking stuff up for this video saying, talking about stouts versus lagers, and that's actually completely wrong. There are ales and there are lagers. Not all ales are stout. Not all, or some lagers are stout. Now, typically, ales are more likely to be made into stouts. So there aren't as many stout lagers, but they do exist. And again, like I said, I don't know about the non-stout ales as much. I didn't look into that too much. I didn't think to look into that. But I assume they do exist because we go back into history and we can see that they didn't always exist. Not all ales were stout. So porter is a type of ale, and the first stouts on record were porters. And it was the Egerton manuscript in 1677 makes mention of stouts and stout porters. And basically, stout, just at the time, stout was another word for strong. So this is a stronger beer. That's really all a stout is. They are typically made with more malt and with roasted barley, so that's where the sort of the smoky taste I talked about earlier comes from, is it's roasted barley. And again, it's an ale because it's the yeast used ferments at the top of the vat in warmer temperatures. Take roasted barley, use a different kind of yeast, you have a stout lager. So you can make a stout lager, they just aren't as popular. And actually, while I was looking this up, Guinness does make a stout lager, but their ale is the more common one. Now there are different types of stouts even. So milk stout was one of the earlier ones, and they were making ale with milk in it. And one thing about milk, milk's got lactose in it as a sugar. In the process, the lactose doesn't ferment as much as other types of sugar. So milk stouts were sometimes called sweet stouts. And this was popular in England. Ireland, they started making stouts without the milk in it, so we got what was called dry stouts because more of the sugar was fermenting, and so we had higher alcohol content, and it had a drier taste to it. And so Guinness is a dry stout or an Irish stout. Since then, they make oatmeal stouts, they make oyster stouts, they make all sorts of weird stouts now. Not going to go into that because I really have, like I said, I'm not a big stout drinker, so I don't have a really big plan on ever trying any of these other ones. Now then, what else do we have going here? So 1759, Alec Guinness opens up the Guinness brewing plant, or we call it the Guinness Brewery. The actual name is the St. James Gate Brewery. because I assume it's located near St. James's Gate in Dublin. He starts making a stout beer, which becomes very popular, almost synonymous with Irish beer. It's Guinness. You can't talk about Irish beer without someone bringing up Guinness anymore. October 16th, 1817, there is record of 8 barrels of Guinness stout being shipped to South Carolina. So this is the first record of Guinness in America. Then between 1948 and 1954, Guinness ran a brewery in New York City. And so, like I said, we did have Guinness in America. How wide it spread, we don't know, or I don't know, because they stopped making it here in America long before I was born. Started mass importing, or importing to the point where it got here locally back in the early 90s, like I said. 2018, they opened a new, Guinness opened a plant in America, Maryland this time. I think it was near Boston. I don't remember exactly. And so we're making Guinness here in America again. And that's really all I had to say. Like I said, St. Patrick's Day, so I thought I'd talk a bit about Guinness. Like, this isn't an advertisement for Guinness, because like I said, I don't care for the stuff, not because it's a bad beer, just because of my experience watching people react to it and pretend like they think it's the greatest thing in the world. As I said, stout beers are an acquired taste, just as regular beer is an acquired taste for children. When you get to be an adult and you start drinking stout beers, you gotta reacquire a new taste all of a sudden. Just thought I'd talk about that because I know St. Patrick's Day is coming up. We're gonna have people running out drinking Guinness. Look for the people screwing their face up and pretending like they love the taste of it when it's the first time they've ever had it, just because it's sort of funny to watch. And none of them will admit they don't like the taste of it, because again, this is good Irish beer, and I can't admit that I don't like the taste of it, because otherwise my friends will never ask me to go out and get drunk. So that's it. Have a nice day. Like that, sláinte, or health, as the Irish would say.